Well, this is a nice surprise. We've got a very nice full house and a nice mix of students and parents and relatives and such. That first number was The Odd Couple, but I'd like to bring you up to speed on what The Odd Couple means to me because it's kind of a special tune. In the late 1960s, as a teenager, I escaped from the pressures of life by absorbing myself in what we now call sitcoms. My favorite of that time was The Odd Couple, a series about two men whose wives had thrown them out and they came to live together. It was kind of a precarious relationship. The opening theme music still brings back some very great memories for me. As many of you have figured out, that music was from The Odd Couple. I'm sure there's a few people who can relate to what the late 1960s were all about. Carrying on, we'd like to introduce you to the next piece of music we'd like to play. And in short, it was written by Sammy Nestico, and Sammy Nestico is one of the most successful and recognizable figures in jazz music today. A leader, arranger, and composer for film, television, and radio for over 50 years, his musical legacy is an integral part of our national consciousness, both in Canada as well as the United States. In 1970, Sammy learned that he was a cousin to Count Basie's tenor saxophonist Sal Nestico, who spelled his name slightly different. Sammy visited with Sal when the Basie band was playing in Washington, D.C. Sal looked at some of the music that Sammy had been writing at the time and said, "Sammy, you ought to be writing for Basie." He invited Sammy to meet the Count, and trombonist Grover Washington Jr., or Sr. rather, another Pittsburgher, introduced Sammy to Basie formally. The Count asked Sammy to become one of his staff writers, and he's put in many, many years with many successful pieces. None less important than our next number, and the one that I cut my teeth on for very slow tempos when I was attending McGill University. We'd like to now play Queen Bee. behind me that it's an apology that we've never played it that slow before, have we? One of the things I pride myself with, coming from a performance background, I've had a lot of opportunities to play in my life, and grew up at the right time when the opportunities were there. And I try to make this band as realistic as possible, because when these students leave, they in essence come in as kids and they leave as adults. But when they leave and go back into the community, there's going to be lots of opportunities for them to play, but only if I deal with them realistically. And if I don't bring out the true values of what happens on a job realistically, then they're only half the students that they could be. So that's what I feel my main mentorship is here. And that's why we did that slower. Because that's what happens sometimes on the gig, and that's actually where the tune should be played. Just so you know, it's a lovely businessman's bounce, and anybody can dance to it. We'd like to carry on with our next number. In a way of keeping my passion for jazz music alive and well, I subscribe to the Jazz Times, which is a music magazine. I visit live jazz venues regularly. I dabble in small ensemble arrangements, as well as attend conferences. And a few years ago, I attended the IAJE, which is the International Association of Jazz Educators. They're not going anymore. They, in fact, closed their doors at the end of that conference and reunited under a different banner. But in short, the last conference was in Toronto, and I had the pleasure of sitting in on the workshop about what we call shout choruses. This was presented by our next composer arranger, Mike Tomorrow. Mike's workshop was concise, clear, like his music. Much of his music is quite demanding, however, and I am pleased to introduce to you Secret Smiles, a bossa nova, which will feature the piano. And as I always like to say, if you're so moved and know how to dance a bossa nova, we have a dance for it. is so well respected that it develops a legacy by which its name is used in movie titles, books, and quoted often. One is compelled to keep the melody alive and well through performance. Such is the heritage of our next selection. Originally played as a ballad, our selection Around Midnight was written in 1944 by the pianist Thelonious Monk. Credits are also given to Cootie Williams and Bertie Hagen. It is believed to be originally composed in 1936 by Monk under the name Grand Finale. Today's feature or arrangement features a more up-tempo take on the tune while still maintaining its traditional integrity. We hope you'll enjoy it. Around Midnight. scared me. Because there's an adage in the business, and that is, good dress rehearsal, bad concert. Or vice versa, bad dress rehearsal, great concert. But this is proving to be both the same. Thank you so much. Yes, please. Boss Brass founder Rob McConnell dies at 75. This was posted on May the 3rd, 2010 at 1:54 in the afternoon on the CBC. Canadian jazz great Rob McConnell, a trombonist and band leader of the Boss Brass, has died at 75. McConnell passed away in the Toronto hospital Saturday after a long battle with cancer. McConnell was a valve trombonist, arranger, composer, and worked with many small jazz groups in Canada. His leadership of the Boss Brass, a 16-piece band he formed in 1968, catapulted McConnell in the Canadian jazz world, Canadian jazz onto the world stage. Flugelhorn and trumpet player Guido Basso played with the Boss Brass from 1968 until McConnell grew too ill to participate last year. It was the only Canadian jazz band that could ever cross the border and play the living daylights out of the U.S. musicians. Anybody who knows the man I'm talking about, Rob McConnell, knows this to be true. I get a little emotional when I think of Rob because he was a very cranky individual that demanded really high standards, and that's what I experienced in learning jazz music at McGill University. I had a mentor, Jerry Denovich, who was very much like Rob McConnell, expected always far beyond what we could give, but that's how you grow. I happened to find this morning when I was looking for writing my note bits, which I normally do on Sunday morning before a concert. Rob was the most recognized icon of, that was a quote by the way from CBC. Now I'll tell you my own personal feelings. Rob was the most recognized icon in Canadian jazz and was at the helm of the Boss Brass, pounding out album after album after CD after CD. Some of his alumni were Guido Basso, which we mentioned a moment ago, Eugene Amaro, fine tenor saxophone player, Don Thompson, great bass player, vibraphone player, and now pretty much plays piano. Terry Clark, the drummer of the band, who I had an opportunity to work with a year and a half ago here in town. Sammy Noto and Arnie Tchaikovsky, great screech trumpet player. Could play so high that only dogs could hear, right? And of course, the ever-popular Mo Kaufman, the swinging shepherd. I like to keep this band alive and well with a McConnell number every year if possible. This afternoon's contribution is a swing blues entitled Can't Stop My Leg, featuring the trombone section on the opening head. And this is so appropriate for me because whenever my wife and I go somewhere, inevitably my leg starts doing this. And in particular, there's some music happening. So this is an appropriate tune for me. I don't think you'll see any action from me in that area this afternoon, but you will from the band. Here we go. Are we happy? Yes, we are. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Brown, October 30th, 1930 through June 26, 1956. Also known as Brownie, was an American jazz trumpeter. He died at age 25 in a car accident, leaving behind only 4 years worth of recordings. Nonetheless, he had a considerable influence on jazz players throughout the decade. Our next selection, I Remember Clifford, was written by fellow bandmate Benny Jolson, both members of the Lionel Hampton Orchestra. Considered a standard repertoire for jazz trumpeters, much like vocalists having to know My Funny Valentine. It's a kind of a standard thing you need to have in your bag. This arrangement is an ensemble piece with small highlights of the trumpet. It does not feature the trumpet, it's an ensemble piece, but we're sure that you will enjoy it. Okay, it comes to the magic time. We're going to wrap up with one more number, but before we do, I'd like to just give a little departmental punch for our afternoon's performance. Many of you here may be interested as students in participating in the band or have no idea that maybe music existed here on UWaterloo, and we'd like to welcome you into the fold if you're interested in studying studio, taking music courses, theory, history. We have a great jazz course by Professor Weaver, and the stage band and small ensemble as well, classical small ensembles. So if you're interested as a student in participating in the program, there is credit given for it. You can obtain a double major, you can have a major with a minor in music, or you can just take the music as extra courses for your quarter credit here, a half credit there. Please feel free to either talk to myself at the reception or one of the members of the band. They're quite accessible. Perhaps a member of the band would be a good choice for students because they'll get the true gigs on it. Secondly, for everyone here this afternoon, we encourage you to come down to the reception, which is held down the hall and to the right a little bit, not too far a walk. There'll be refreshments and little snacks, and we'd love to see you down there and see your shiny faces. This last piece of music, I'm going to read you the composer's notes because I think that he just said it so well when he was talking about this selection. One of the things we arrangers like to do sometimes is take an old song and dress it up with some new clothes. My own point of view is to leave the melody more or less the original composed. I'll try it again. My own point of view is to leave the melody more or less as the original composer wrote it, and to be judicious with harmonic changes to make the song more interesting. But when it comes to rhythm, there's where you can cut loose. I enjoy seeing how a song works in a different time signature or a different groove than the original. On this chart, I tried to turn the carol we all know into a loving, gentle waltz. You should keep this in mind when you play it. Keep the feel light and buoyant. He looks over his glasses. My notes on this particular piece of music are such. Gordon Goodwin started composing at the age of 3, with no masterpieces at that time, but he kept writing, and he did his first big band chart at the age of 13. Apparently it was good enough to convince him that he could possibly keep doing this. Flash forward 20 years, you'll find Gordon working in Hollywood, writing for television, playing films, and writing for television and playing, try that again, writing for television and film, playing sessional keyboards and woodwinds, and working literally with everyone. He has a list, as a lot of people do, quite extensive. We would now like to close this afternoon's performance with Harp, the Herald Sing. One, two, a 1, 2, 3, go. much for coming out this afternoon. My name is Michael Lloyd on behalf of the faculty. Please come down, chat, have some social time before you head out, and once again, thanks for coming.